What is going on, everyone? I hope you're all doing well. Today we are going to be continuing along discussing some news out of Computex with Core War 2. If you remember last year, we had the big core war going on between Intel and AMD, and here in 2018, that is going to be no different, as both of the companies have kind of been stealing the show over at Computex with reveals of new high-end desktop processors for the consumer market that are going to be pushing the core counts higher than we've ever seen before at the consumer level. So Intel had revealed their 28-core CPU, which is probably going to be pretty damn amazing. They actually showed it running at 5 gigahertz, and we'll get into talking all about that in a moment. And then AMD also introduced their second generation of Threadripper, which we knew was coming. It had been rumored and discussed that it was going to be coming in August, but I don't really think many people were expecting them to really push up the core count. I mean, I was originally expecting them just to go to 12 nanometer plus like they did with Ryzen second generation and maybe be a little bit faster, have a few of those extra optimizations thrown on there. But seeing them come out of the gates with a 32-core, 64-threaded processor, I don't think too many of us actually saw that coming, and it's definitely going to be very exciting once those things actually hit the market later this year, as well as Intel's to kind of, put those head to head. I guess as terms of core count, AMD is going to be beating them yet again with 32 cores, 64 threads, although I'm assuming Intel is probably going to beat them in terms of speed. So let's talk about Intel first. Like I said, it's going to be a 28-core processor, and they showed it off at Computex running at 5 gigahertz across all cores, but there has been some kind of questions as to how they achieved that. It was running on a water cooler, while AMD in their presentation was actually running on an air cooler. Over on PC World, Gordon actually did an interview with AMD's Jim Anderson, and they were sitting down talking about Threadripper. Really great video. I'll actually link to that down below in either the comments or in the description. And they were talking about Threadripper, what they could actually discuss right now. They didn't really reveal anything like final clock speeds or pricing. He said he couldn't talk about that stuff just yet. But they did say, just like during the presentation, it was running on an air cooler. They actually had this custom Cooler Master one that was made for Threadripper specifically, and it's got like RGB lighting and the Ryzen Threadripper logo right on it. So it seems like this time around, AMD has kind of been working in cooperation with a lot of the cooler manufacturers out there to get coolers out day one. The same was true with Be Quiet. They're working on a cooler specifically for the TR4 socket, so that's good to see because there aren't a ton of coolers out there right now that are really designed to work with such a massive socket, so that's good to see. But switching gears back over to Intel, as I said, it was going to be a 28-core CPU running at 5 gigahertz. Now, we know, according to them, that this is also running on the LGA 3647 socket, which is an Intel Xeon socket. So it kind of seems like they're making a consumer level or high-end desktop version of the LGA 3647 socket, and that's kind of what they're doing here with these new processors, and as they said, running them at 5 gigahertz, although it was running on a water cooler. Now, they did run some tests on it, and in Cinebench R15, it actually scored 7,334 points. And according to Anantech, they said working from that data taken from Intel's current 28-core Xeon processor, the Xeon Platinum 8180, that shows a score at 3.34 gigahertz that can achieve a score of 5,040. So doing the math and assuming perfect scaling, which Cinebench does pretty well at, shows that the same processor for 5 gigahertz would score around 7,560 points. So it really seems like they're taking an existing Xeon part, the Platinum 8180, and they're making it into a high-end desktop part, which Intel has kind of been known for years. They're always doing this. They kind of roll stuff out into the enterprise first, the Xeon stuff, and then they eventually make a consumer-level processor out of it. Now, the whole thing with it running at 5 gigahertz, a lot of people have been questioning because it was running on a water cooler, and during their tour of actually taking a look at the parts from Anantech, they actually noted that they were using a water chiller. So what this does is it's actually taking the water that's cooling the processor and it's adding an extra step onto that and then cooling that water down even further, down to 4 degrees Celsius, so coming within a few degrees of freezing. So that is what they seemingly needed to do to be able to get these processors running at 5 gigahertz, which I think is somewhat disingenuous, because that's probably not going to be a typical use case scenario. Most people at this level, you're probably looking at running a water cooler, sure, but not too many people are going to be adding in a 1 horsepower water chiller on top of that to cool down the liquid that's being used to cool the CPU. I just don't see too many people actually going ahead and doing that step unless you're getting into some seriously high-end overclocking. So whether or not these things can actually hit 5 gigahertz, on air or a liquid cooler definitely remains to be seen, but I'm assuming that that's not going to be the case. I'm guessing we'll probably be somewhere between 4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz, but I definitely would not expect to see 5 gigahertz on all 28 cores. But hey, I would love to be proven wrong, because that would be really impressive to see, because Intel has always been known to kind of do higher clock speeds better than AMD, because with the new 32-core Ryzen Threadripper, I'm not really expecting to see these running much faster than what we had on the 2nd generation Ryzen. And on a good day, those were getting to 4.3 gigahertz on all cores, possibly even 4.4, but that's on like a really cherry-picked CPU. But, of course, with Threadripper, they are actually using cherry-picked dies, which Jim Anderson has said himself, that's public information. When they're making the Threadripper CPUs, they're actually taking the top of the heap when it comes to Ryzen processors. So they take 4 Ryzen dies, or 4 8-core dies, and the top-end ones, the best cherry-picked ones that they can find, and those are the ones that they use to make the Threadripper processors. So I guess it doesn't go without reason that maybe it could overclock a little bit better than 2nd generation Ryzen, but probably not by much. I mean, if I saw these things going at 4.5 gigahertz or higher than that on all cores, I would be very surprised, but that would be awesome. I'm certainly looking forward to Threadripper coming out. I would love to do a main system upgrade. I'm still running my Black Mesa system with an i7-6800K, and yeah, it's definitely starting to show its age. I had a chance recently to test a Threadripper system, but that wasn't mine to keep. I had to send it back, and I didn't get a sample on Threadripper the first time around, so fingers crossed this time around that we get the chance to test out the 32-core 64-thread, because if I do, I am definitely doing a full system upgrade, because that thing is going to be a monster for rendering out 4K video for content creators like myself. So let me know down in the comments below what you're looking forward to most coming out, Threadripper Gen 2 or the 28-core Intel processor. I think for a lot of people, it's going to end up coming down to price at the end of the day, and if last year's launch is anything to go by, AMD is probably going to be winning there. I mean, their 1950Xs, those were retailing for $1,000. So I'm guessing that the new generation ones, the 32-core anyway, will be higher than that, probably somewhere between $1,200 and $1,500. That's just kind of a guess. And then the 28-core from Intel, that's probably going to be over $2,000, because they had the 18-core come out last year, which was close to $2,000. So a 28-core this year, probably going to be over $2,000. So we're probably looking at quite a difference there in terms of price from Intel and AMD. Whether or not which one will be more beneficial for your needs, that's going to really be up to you. And I'm sure most of you out there, I mean, some of you might not even be able to afford PCs right now, and here we are talking about $1,500 and $2,000 plus processors. But it's definitely exciting to see this kind of stuff getting pushed, just kind of seeing the limits of computing power and everything. So both sides continuing to push it. Core War Gen 2, let's get it on, baby. I can't wait to see these guys go head-to-head and see which one comes out at the top at the end of the day. But please let me know your thoughts, as always, down in the comments. Look forward to our discussion for sure. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, don't forget to leave a like on it down below and subscribe if you're not already, and I will catch you guys next time. Sarah. For War 2.